Hello. It's Dr. Jess. Welcome back to Be Well with Dr. Jess, the podcast. Okay, we're really doing this. I know I keep saying that, but we really are. This is episode 4. If you have been journeying with me on this new podcast, you have started to think about ways to romanticize your life. You're engaging in self-care. And now we're going to introduce a new way of thinking about a concept that we all know, and that's creativity. The focus today is I want you to never lose creativity. All right, so let's just take a moment here. What comes to mind when you think about the word creativity? All right, I'm sure you are picturing some art form. Maybe you are a creator and you create content, or you create art or music, right? You're thinking about artistry. And honestly, that's the first thing that comes to my mind as well. Creativity has really been a huge part of my life. It's very important. It's how Dr. Jess was birthed, but it's really also a bit different, right? I want us to think about how creativity is more than or in addition to the art. Creativity can be a powerful tool that can help us cope with problems, find solutions, and live a more fulfilling life. So today we are going to explore creativity as a tool to help you navigate life's challenges, ideally come up with a way to get out of this rut you feel like you're in, and move you towards living a life that you feel more positively about. I want to jump into when creativity became, for me, an idea or concept that I could bring into therapy sessions. So I'm thinking particularly about patients who I work with that I'm giving the interpretation or my interpretation about what they're experiencing. Maybe I'm giving some recommendations or thoughts around how they could adjust things here and there in their life. Some people, this is something I do with all my patients, but some people take this and they come into session shortly after and they're telling me the ways that they have improved or made changes. Others come in and we're kind of still talking about and exploring things, and nothing wrong with that. But what I noticed, people were able to come back to me and talk about some solution that they found to this problem they presented with. I started to wonder, are these people a bit more creative, right? Are they accessing creativity? Because I want to pause here. We all have access to creativity. We may not all be artists, okay? But we all can access this tool that can help us problem solve and think about things a little differently. So I started to think about, well, maybe this is a strategy or concept I need to introduce into sessions, particularly for people who have a more narrowed view. Right? These are people who are seeing things really very cut off from the wide range of possibilities that could happen, right? They're thinking because their McDonald's fries are not hot is because someone doesn't like them in there, and it's always an issue when I come to this place. Instead of thinking about everyone experiences cold fries here and there, how can we get you some hot fries if that's what you want, right? So this is about kind of broadening your view so that you're not looking at things from this very narrowed and negative view. So in these moments that I'm kind of thinking about creativity, it's helped me to make this connection that this could be a tool I can really bring into session. And it's a little new for me, right? I shared with you all as a part of my own evolution as a psychiatrist, doctor, therapist. It's also allowing myself to bring in wisdom that comes from working with people, from talking with people in real life, from my own experience in therapy. And it brings me back to this thought. In this moment, I'm having this thought about this psychiatrist who I was interviewing, I was being interviewed by as a part of my residency application process, right? You go around, you interview. One of the things that he said was, to become a good psychiatrist, you really need to sit and live life. And so that's a part of what I'm trying to bring into this podcast. And obviously I'm sharing with you, this is what I brought into session. So creativity can be an excellent tool to help you uncover problems and maybe solve them. And so I want us to take a moment and just think about creativity just a little bit deeper here. So we are acknowledging, most of us, including myself, we think about creativity as an expression of an art form, some sort of passion that you have that you're putting into artistry. I'm sharing with you, I've noticed that maybe creativity is a part of what helps some of my patients take my advice and put it into action, right? They're thinking of new ways to do this thing. So I want to talk about a definition by Robert Franken, and I really like this. So he says creativity is defined as the tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. The part here that really resonates with me is how creativity can be used to generate new ideas or generate or recognize ideas, alternatives as a means to problem solve. Not at all what I would think creativity means. Again, I am picturing people like my husband who creates beautiful artwork, that's coming from this deep rooted sense of family and what that means to him. And he's expressing it in this way that people are like lining up to see. This instead is about how we can take our creative expression, but instead of using it to create art, we can use it to create a solution to problems. Love, love, love that. So I'm sure you're seeing now why this could be a key for me in helping patients in therapy and why I'm sharing it here with you. So the broader meaning is more than art, but it can be a tool that can help us look at things differently and maybe help us get out of a rut. All right, so now that we've acknowledged that we're going to be thinking about creativity as a means to help us solve some of our problems, help us get out of the rut, obviously there's barriers, right? There are some people who are not feeling as confident. Maybe they are experiencing self-doubt. They have a negative self-appraisal. So they're hearing this and they're like, Dr. Jess, girl, please. Creativity, I have so many issues I need resolved. Creativity is not going to help me with that, right? Or maybe someone is a perfectionist. They need to have every detail figured out, thought through before they can begin to execute any idea that they have gotten creatively, any idea that they have gotten creatively. These are just examples to say there may be barriers to your ability to feel like you can express or access creativity. So you can start with something simple, right? Most people are cooking a meal at some point in their life, right? Ideally, you're cooking a few meals a day, but I just want to make it easy, right? If you are someone who's ever cooked, how many times have you prepared a recipe or you're going through your routine and maybe you're out of something and you improvise, right? This is something that we also talk about. My son even says it when we're building Legos and he's like, we can just improvise, right? That was one strategy me and my husband introduced to him to maybe help him when he's feeling like, I gotta have this exact piece. Let's improvise, right? That's a part of what you do when you are cooking a meal and you ain't got everything in there, right? You are improvising. All right, I don't have the mixing cup I need, the mixing bowl, let me use this instead. I don't have enough flour, maybe I can use this instead. That is an example of you using creativity to solve a problem. Improvising is an example of creativity, right? Start small. We're not trying to build everything in one day. We're taking little steps at a time. It doesn't have to be perfect, but start to make this a part of what you think about and reflect on throughout your day. As a therapist, one of the things that I have been thinking about is how I can help patients start to think about problems that they're presenting in ways that are surmountable, right? They come in and they're expressing that they need help with this problem. And for them, it feels like there is no solution to it. So I want to take this moment and demystify therapy a bit because the next few episodes, we're going to explore concepts that are really rooted in the practice of psychotherapy. So I got to let you know what's happening behind closed doors, right? If you come to a therapy session and you're working with a therapist like myself who slants more towards psychodynamic theory, which is really about thinking about how the way that we behave and how we think may be shaped by our early experiences. So often with patients, they're presenting a problem. Let's say, I feel like I'm not vulnerable enough, therefore I'm not connecting. Oh, no, actually, they may come in and say, I feel like I'm not connecting with my friends. We might explore this and discover that it's really an issue with vulnerability that stems from growing up in a household where feelings weren't expressed. If they were pushed down, right? Just, you see where I'm going with this. So that's an example of how a therapist who has more of a psychodynamic lens may explore things, okay? Now, what happens in sessions when I'm thinking about my role in providing them a creative way of thinking about a problem is we explore things. So you're presenting a problem, we are digging into it, you're telling me as much as you can about it, I'm asking questions, I'm trying to picture your reality, okay? Then from there, I start to make connections between your previous experiences and how you're behaving today. And I may interpret what I'm noticing, right? This lack of vulnerability may stem from your early experience where you saw your parents not share a single feeling, right? They were really just focused on work and taking care of you all, but there wasn't really a lot of room to explore how you felt. That's an example of interpreting. Now, the next step I may say is, but you want to feel closer with the friends that you have. You're feeling like there isn't a connection that you're making. I believe it's because vulnerability is lacking. So I want you to reach out to one friend who you do feel safe with and maybe tell them that you're in therapy and this is something you're exploring, for example. Or tell them something that you've been wanting to say that you felt like you haven't been able to. This is my way of providing a creative solution that may help them feel more empowered to look at this problem in a solvable way. Now it's time for practical tips and solutions that I love to give. Thank you for being here with me so far. So here are some practical tips to help you tap into creativity. Start by looking at problems you are experiencing a bit differently. We call this reframing when we're doing that therapy talk. And I'm going to delve into this a little bit more in another episode. But what you're doing here is asking yourself, is there a different way to look at this problem that I'm facing? What I'm hoping this question will do is invoke a thought of a possible solution to the experience you're going through. Secondly, I want you to seek out support. This goes back to self-care. Remember, we talked about the importance of being connected socially. So it's time to reach out. Maybe there's someone who you already know that can give you some advice to shake things up a little bit. Maybe they're daring, maybe they're bold, and you want to just access a little bit of that yourself. Or maybe there's someone who really thinks through problems in a way that helps you feel anchored and like there is something that can help you with what they're working through. No matter what, just think about the benefits of support. So I want you to give this one a try. Try a daily creative practice. I mentioned cooking a lot. I'm a foodie, y'all. I really love cooking. My little girl helped me make lasagna last night. Okay. But this can be an opportunity to express yourself and maybe start to see how creativity is a part of your reality. It doesn't have to be pretty. I'm going to be honest with you. That plate of lasagna was not my fave, but we made it with love and I had a good time teaching her some steps and really imparting in her what I hope she'll carry with her as she grows older. So try daily practices. You can doodle, you can journal, you can turn on music, you can try to make up a dance routine. Just have fun. Do things that spark a little joy. And this, again, is just going to help you to start to see that you do have access to creativity and you may be able to turn it up in times when you need to solve a problem. So this week, I want you to try one creative activity. I want you to reach out to me, tell me how it goes, tell me how it went. You can contact me online at Ask Dr. Jess or at Be Well Convo. You can send me an email, hello@AskDrJess. I really want to hear from you. I want to know how it's going. So again, you're going to try one creative activity this week, and we're not necessarily centering art. If that's the idea that you want to go to, fine. But if you want to challenge yourself a little bit here, I want you to look at something that you have been facing that's been a little difficult and just try to see it in a new way and see if this can be your creative act for the week. Remember, creativity is definitely about the artistry, but it also can be a tool to help you overcome problems and think about things in a fresher way. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, send it out to everyone you know. If you didn't, send it out to everyone you know and let me know what you would like to hear instead. I'm Dr. Jess. Remember, you are not your pain, you are love. Be well.